buddy, put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
The Michael Dukes Show.
I have 2 guns, one for each of you.
Firearms Friday.
As Thomas Jefferson stated, it is the right and duty of the people to be at all times armed.
Say hello to my little friend.
I say that the Second Amendment is, in order of importance, the First Amendment. The right to keep and bear arms is the one right that allows rights to exist at all.
The Michael Dukes Show. The right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Not be infringed. Firearms.
From my cold, dead hands.
Friday.
Here's my rifle, this is my gun, this is for fighting, this is for fun.
Firearms Friday.
Oh, baby. Firearms Friday. Your chance to sound off on issues of a nature right here on the big radio program. Thank you for coming in and joining us. It is, oh man, that one day of the week that we've been waiting for all week long. Oh, man. Can you believe it? We're at Friday already? How did we get here? How did we get here so fast? Oh, here we are. Jumping through the hoops, doing what we need to do best. Talking about guns, firearms, safety, tips, tricks, tactics, firearms law, whatever it is. If it's gun related today, boy, howdy, are we going to dive into it. Now, no guest today. I always forget, especially when the first of the month. Anyway, Chris Chang will be joining us next weekend on the program. He will be joining us on the second Friday of the month. So Chris Chang will be with us next week to discuss more firearms goodness and stories from the great state of California. He'll be coming in and giving us his thoughts on things next weekend. And so today it's just going to be me and you. And I got a whole bunch of stories to dive into and everything else. But one of the things that I love about Firearms Friday, and quite honestly, one of the reasons why I started doing this show specifically, this specialty, the Friday-only edition of the show, was because I wanted to, well, I guess the one way to put it is to spread the gospel of the firearm. I wanted more people to be involved in the gun culture. And the problem was, of course, is that there is there's a lot of misinformation out there about firearms. There's a lot of misinformation about gun laws and gun rights. And all you have to do is turn your TV on or pick up your newspaper and find out exactly what other people are putting out there. And some of the misinformation and just, well, sometimes it's outright lies. They just, either intentional or unintentional. They don't know what they're writing about. They don't know the subject. They don't understand it. And so it becomes speculation masked as fact and reporting. And so that was kind of the whole point behind what we were doing here on the program was, trying to, again, demystify this whole process. And so here we are. I guess 15 years later, running, I don't know, I think we've been running Firearms Friday for close to 15 years at this point. It may not be the most populous or the most popular segment on the show, but I'll tell you, when I'm out and about in the world and people run into me here in the state of Alaska, I will tell you that probably 4 out of 5 times somebody says, I really love that Firearms Friday you do. So it's apparently making an impact in some way, shape, or form. Now, I'm not naive enough to believe that just because we demystified it or we changed, this show is in no way, shape, or form meant to target specifically to people who are anti-gun. All right. If you are vehemently anti-gun, you probably already turned the show off and moved somewhere else. But occasionally, just occasionally, things can happen. Miracles can occur. I still remember it must have been about 5 years ago. I was doing the show, and I was on the station in Anchorage, and I got a call. I had a producer at that point. I remember the producer telling me during the break that I had a call from a woman who had been a staunch gun control advocate, but had been staying with her brother. They'd been up visiting from New York State, and she and her husband had traveled to Alaska to visit Alaska, and they'd been staying with her husband for about a month over the summer, and they had been listening to Firearms Friday. Now, in the middle of all that as well, her brother, who was very pro-gun, had been coaxing her to, by the second or third week, had coaxed her to go to the gun range, and taken her and her husband out to the gun range. And I remember she called and said, before she'd taken this trip, she was, she believed in all the hype that was out there, all the anti-gun sentiment, that, we would just be safer, and only, you don't need a gun to protect yourself, and criminals, and blah, 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 and everything else. And then she said, this is a conversion on air, man. She basically said when she gets back, she and her husband are going to, they'd already been looking on the internet at joining a local rifle and pistol club, and they were going to be purchasing firearms for them to use both for practice and for self-defense. And probably one of the most gratifying moments that I've ever experienced on a Firearms Friday. Now, that's one time in 15 years that there's been a conversion. This show is really directed more towards, not towards the anti-crowd, who've pretty much made up their mind. I mean, you can see this in a lot of the discussion, pretty much made up their mind. But this is really targeted to the folks who are ambivalent, or, they're not pro-gun, they're not anti-gun, they're kind of in the middle, or maybe what we like to call gun curious, like they're like, I'm interested in that, but, so that's what the show is really all about, and trying to inject some common sense and some facts into the conversation around firearms. And so we've got a lot of stories that we're going to be jumping into on this and talking about what's going on around the country, and it should be an interesting discussion. We're going to start off with a discussion about the antis and some of the arguments that they make and why they're so ridiculous. We're going to do that. But I'm also going to open up the phone lines. Like I said, I guess I started this whole rambling rant here because I wanted to let you know that the phone lines are going to be open today, and we're going to open them up right now. The Pivotel call-in lines at 433-3150, powered by our friends at Pivotel and Satellite West, and they are going to be available. And if you want to sound off and talk about anything that's related to firearms, we'd love to hear from you. It's gun Q&A, questions and answers all day. So if you have questions about firearms, you don't want to discuss something, we're here. And there's no such thing as a dumb gun question because, again, we're trying to demystify the firearm. Why I believe that it is, as old Chuck Heston said, in order of importance, the Second Amendment is actually the First Amendment. It's the one rights that allows all the other rights to exist at all. So we're going to dive into that. I actually had one call that called in right before we even threw the theme music on this morning. There was a call that called in. And so I guess since we have the call, and I don't want to make them wait any longer, we'll start off there before I get into my stories for this morning. So let's start with that, shall we? We'll jump over to the phone lines right now. Again, at 433-3150 from Pivotel. Let's go over here and see what you guys have to say. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Buenos dias, Michael. ¿Cómo está, mi amigo? This is Brady from Las Vegas.
Hello, Brady. What is on your mind on this Firearms Friday?
My favorite day of the week calling you, Mike. The thing is, I wanted to bring up now that bullets and ammunition are so expensive, besides the air rifles now, like the 22, when you can shoot for about 2 cents a round or whatever. The rimfire bullet, the gun that I like, is the Ruger 1022, but they have the Charger model. Have you ever shot that one?
The Charger model of the 1022, I have not. I've shot a lot of 1022. Like you, it's probably my favorite 22 caliber rifle, but I have not seen the Charger model of it. What is that?
The Charger is like it's like a bullpup. It looks almost like a AR platform. It's super small. It's about half the size. They got tons of accessories that you can put on to make them like super handy in a combat situation. Also, like I think it's called the Bolt, the 22 Bolt bullets. They're super powerful. So you're basically shooting an AR platform at 22, just like a 223. The 22 is just a little bit smaller. But in today's world, where you have to only get bullets that are on the shelves at Walmart, your 22s are only the few ones that are even there, and they're gone in about 2 hours after they arrive. So you either have to get an air rifle. Like I was telling you, the Hot Sawney is really good. There's several other ones now that are about $300. Also, you need to pick up a Ruger Charger for about $350. Get yourself 2 BX-25 and tape them together, side-by-side magazines. They hold 25 rounds in each. Tape them together, one upside down, so you can flip them quick, and you just got yourself a survival rifle, which we're going to be needing here in the future.
Yeah, I mean, the 22 cartridge is not a bad cartridge, and while you're right, the caliber is close to the 223 as far as the size. I mean, the power difference is immense. It's a similar caliber, but the power difference is tremendously. But for a survival rifle, for sniping small game, or for any kind of light game hunting and things like that, it is a nice lightweight rifle. Bullpups, I'm actually kind of a fan of bullpups. I don't. There's been a few out there that have been made over the years. They're nice because they are more compact, and if the idea is executed well, it can be make the firearm a lot nicer to carry around, and more expedient to use in and out of a vehicle and things like that. So I'll have to look into this. The Ruger Charger. I see that there's some bullpup kits for 1022s. I don't see the Charger, but I'll have to do some research.
Yeah,
on
look up the Ruger Charger and then accessories. There's a million, and then get yourself a beautiful red dot scope and put right on top. Man, you are set up. You can put that gun in your backpack. So when you're going out hiking or whatever, it's the most versatile backpack gun out on the market.
Yeah, there's a couple different ways you can do that make it very convenient. For that, and there's a couple different schools of thought on that. A bullpup for a 22 again would be good, mostly for game. It's not a fantastic defensive weapon because again, it doesn't have the stopping power of either. Definitely not of a centerfire rifle cartridge, and even not of most pistol cartridges. I, for one, am a fan of carbine kits for pistols. I think that is a good solution, a good medium-grade solution for doing things like that. I have a couple carbine kits that I've used over the years for one for my 45 that, gives you that 16-inch barrel. It gives you the grip and the stock and everything else you need, and it converts it down into that. And that's a good medium because you can put it all in your backpack, like you said. And in just a moment or two, you can have a firearm that you could use defensively. You could use it to take down game. You could use it in a variety of scenarios. And I really like that as well. So there's a couple different ways to do that. But I do love a 1022.
One thing, Mike. One thing, Mike, I wanted to say, since you're talking about the most versatile gun that you can get, a really cheap price gun that will work all the time. But for your handgun, the one that I've been recommending now for almost 25, 30 years, you can still get them on the market. You need to get one. It's the equivalent of a 357. It's a semi-automatic, but it's a 7.62 by 2.5 caliber pistol. It's called the CZ52. You need to get one of them immediately. Everyone that listens to your show, you need to get a CZ52 and a Charger Ruger. Two things you need always for you.
I've shot the CZ before. They're very prevalent. They're very reliable. The commonality of the ammunition is my problem. I don't like to buy pistols or rifles that have an odd size to their calibers. I don't shoot Wildcat rounds. I don't shoot. My stuff is all 45, 223, 7.62, and that's pretty much it. So I wouldn't want to have to buy a brand new caliber for that. But it is a good. I mean, those are good, dependable pistols in the long run. So you're not wrong there, Brady. All right, my friend. Well, thank you for sounding off this morning. I appreciate you coming on board. That takes us up to the break. So I guess we will continue ahead and start off with some commercials, and then when we come back, we've got some more stories, and I want to see what you guys have to say. Again, the phone lines are open for gun Q&A all day. 907-433-3150. The Michael Duke Show continues with Firearms Friday.
If you missed the show, you can listen to it on your time with Dukes On Demand. Oh, and it's free. Like America used to be. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay. In the break right now. Let me go back up here to see what we go. Greg says he has a Charger. I'll have to check it out. I'll be honest, I had not heard of that. I've got several 1022s that I really enjoy, but I had not seen. I have a Ruger Charger rimfire. It says it's a pistol. Is it classified as a pistol? Oh, okay. Okay, so it's not a bullpup rifle in the terms of like really a bullpup rifle. It's a pistol, according to Ruger's website here, the Ruger 22 Charger. Okay, so that's not technically a bullpup. That's just a pistol. It's cut down. It has no buttstock, but it is a pistol. It's got a 10-inch barrel, it looks like, and a pistol. I like the. Does it have a pistol? Does it have a? Oh, is it got a swing away? No, it doesn't have a swing away stock. It's got a. Okay. All right. Well, I will. I see that there's a lot of pictures here on places like Pew Pew and others that have got some pictures of it with a stock on it. But I think technically it's a pistol. So if you put a stock on it, it's a short barrel rifle. So you got to make sure you be very careful with that. That's like what I said when I have my carbine kit for my pistol. I'm always very careful to put the barrel in first, even when I'm alone, because you just never know. Because if I put the shoulder stock on it before I put the barrel in it, technically it's a short barrel rifle. And I know that that's a stupid technicality, but that's the way it is. It's the way it is. That's the government for you. Wait, you've got all the parts here to make a carbine, but if you put that stock on before you put the barrel in, you are in big trouble. Okay, all right, I'm sorry. Apparently, the order of thing is it's okay. Mike, that is a battlefield wisdom. Shoot what everybody else is shooting. That way you can scavenge up all the tactical doodads and ammo. Don't give out all my secrets, sister. Don't give out all my secrets. I mean, and it's not just battlefield. It's also, I came across, I came to that conclusion many years ago when I had been considering purchasing some other pistols, including a 40 Smith & Wesson and a 10 millimeter, and realized the general availability of that ammo at the time was a lot tougher. And I was like, well, I don't really need this other pistol in a different caliber. So anyway, years ago, used to own a rimfire handgun that was as fun as a barrel of monkeys. Intratec Tech 22s that use Ruger 1022 magazines. Oh, that would be fun. That would be fun. I mean, 22 is just fun to shoot. If you want to do something really fancy, what you do is you get yourself a Black Dog or one of the drop-in kits for your AR. My kids never had more fun than when they were shooting AR-15s with 22 conversion kits in them from Black Dog Machine. I've got a couple of those that just it was just amazing. It was just amazing. A fun time to drop them in and just go to town with them. Because it was cheaper and it was a lot easier for the kids to shoot, but they still were able to familiarize themselves with the mechanics of the firearm, and the platform. Anyway, it's it's fun stuff, absolutely fun stuff. Okay, you guys can tell me all your 22 caliber stories. I love that. Kel-Tec PMR 30 and CMR 30. Oh. The PMR 30 is such a cool pistol. I've never owned one, but I've seen them. I mean, I remember one time I was at a gun show. Well, hey, that's the bell that reminds me that we're about to rejoin. Damn, that thing is loud. I just didn't want to overrun. I'm trying to keep myself from overrunning myself, but damn, that thing is loud. All right, we're going to jump back into it. Here we go. The Michael Dukes Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. All right, welcome back to the program. It is Firearms Friday. Man, we got talking about 22s on the show, and I got a little sidetracked there. But we're ready to come back to it. I do have some stories, but since again it's gun Q&A all day, and somebody just called in here during the at the end of the break, I didn't get a chance to figure out who it was. We'll start off over there and see what you guys have to say. Feel free to call us up this morning. You can also drop us an email. The email address is me@michaeldukeshow.com, me@michaeldukeshow.com. If you have a question that you would like to ask this morning, you can do that as well. I'd love to see what you have to say. You can also go to my website and use the contact form there as well if you'd like to. Meanwhile, let's go to the phones and see what you guys have to say. How about that? Over here. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Good morning, Mike. My name's Webb. I'm in Anchor Point.
Good morning, Webb. What's on your mind, sir?
Well, Brady from Nevada, he's a little incorrect on the 1022 Charger being a bullpup. It's a pistol version of the 1022 rifle. It just has a shorter barrel, comes without a stock or a pistol brace, which you could add a pistol brace to. And there are many configurations that you can do for it, but it's not a bullpup at all.
Right. I discovered that during the break. I was able to actually finally Google the correct pictures, and you're right. It is a pistol. There are pictures on the internet of people putting shoulder stocks on it. But as I was pointing out, due to the proclivities of the federal government and their rules, because it has a barrel shorter than 16 inches, if you put a shoulder stock on it, you have now created an illegal short barrel rifle. So you've got to be very cautious of that kind of stuff. It is not a bullpup in the classical sense of the word. There are conversion kits I saw when I was Googling it for doing it. So for folks who don't know, and Webb, I'm going to hold on to you here, don't go anywhere, but a bullpup, basically most rifles, if you have a regular rifle, the chamber, the mechanism itself is usually in the middle of the rifle. If you're holding it up and looking at it by the side, the chamber itself is usually in the middle of the rifle. So the magazines and the ejection port and the charging handle are all in the middle of the rifle. A bullpup changes that configuration by moving the rifle, the barrel and the assembly back into the stock, so now that the chamber and the magazine and everything else fits near the back end, near the butt end of the stock, and it shortens the overall length of the firearm, still allowing you to have a full 16-inch barrel, but because you've moved it back, 12, 14 inches into the very butt end of the stock, now the overall length of the whole thing is much shorter. And so again, it makes it easier to use in an enclosed environment like a vehicle or in a house or whatever. And it changes the way a lot of those guns shoot because the center of mass is closer to your shoulder. It reduces recoil, and there's all kinds of cool things that are with bullpups. But you're right, Webb, and I didn't realize that until we were in the break, and I was able to actually find it. But the Charger is a 22 pistol. And although it does look cool, I'd love to have a 22 pistol, a 10-22 pistol. That would still be a pretty cool thing to have.
I agree. And if you put a folding brace on it or something like that, you still have a very packable, very effective and reliable firearm. So
yeah.
I own one myself, and I wouldn't part with it for anything. So
yeah,
I really appreciate your show, but go. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Webb. I really appreciate you calling in as well. And again, I find the novelty factor of a 10-22 pistol appealing. The practical applications of it is smaller than what I would like personally. Again, I would like a caliber that is available and usable for both personal defense and hunting and everything else, which is why, like I said, I prefer pistol carbine kits because it kind of splits the difference between again, that small caliber rimfire and the large caliber centerfire rifle, and still gives you a package that is more comfortable and easier. You can use it as concealed. You get more bang for your buck. Now, granted, it's not as great as a dedicated rifle. And in the carbine configuration, doesn't have the advantages of a pistol, but within just a few minutes, you have everything available to where you can use either or. So I love it. But that your mileage may vary. And there's so many pistol kits out there right now, so many carbine kits for pistols, from companies. I mean, Ronin and OBT, and there's a bunch of different companies that create these different kits for various popular handguns. It's something that you'd be remiss if you didn't add it to your emergency bag or kit or whatever. And I know that there are actually carbines out there that are chambered in pistol calibers, but the problem is again, you lose, in my opinion. This is just my opinion. You lose the versatility of being able to have an actual handgun as well. So if you start off with a handgun and you use a carbine kit, you can take that handgun and within just a few minutes, now you have a full carbine, 16-inch shoulder stock. High capacity mag, the whole deal. You've got it all. And then when you need to, you can break it back down into the pistol size again. And so you get almost two for the price of one. I mean, think of it like the Thompson Contender, version of the whole thing. You get two guns for the price of one. Well, actually, it's the price of two, but you can because those parts and pieces, they ain't cheap. Okay, I guarantee you. I got all the bells and whistles for my pistol, and all the extra pieces and parts and everything probably cost almost as much as the full pistol did to begin with. But now I've got two different variants that I can use it with, and I just think it makes more sense in that regard. But there's nothing wrong with plinking with a 22, and there's definitely a place for a 22 caliber handgun or carbine or rifle in anybody's gun safe. Primarily, it's a great way to train new people up on firearms in general, pistols especially. If you're introducing somebody to pistols for the first time, the 22 caliber revolver is a prime example of something that you can use to teach those folks and without the fear of, we've all seen the funny videos of the little tiny gal who weighs 90 pounds soaking wet, shooting a .454 Casull or something at the range, and having it spin around in her hands and smack her in the face or whatever. We don't want that. If we want to introduce people to firearms, we want it to be an enjoyable experience. So 22s in pistols, in rifles, that is the best way to teach people the basics, especially the basics of safety, of trigger control, of targeting, of how to use it, familiarizing themselves with the thing. I was just saying during the break, one of my favorite things was to get a 22 conversion for an AR. And there are several companies that make them. Spikes Tactical makes one, Black Dog Machine in Idaho makes them, where you can basically drop, you open it up, you remove the you remove the bolt carrier group from your AR, and you drop this bolt carrier group in there with a special magazine, and all of a sudden now you're shooting 22 long rifle in your AR-15. There's no recoil, pretty much. I mean, it's all said and done. And you could still, I remember taking my kids out and shooting with them, and they still learn the AR platform. They learn all the ins and outs of it, mag releases, malfunctions, everything else. But now they can shoot all day long, for one, for cheaper, and two, with almost no recoil. And it really makes for a fun day of shooting. So 22 definitely got a... has got a place in anyone's gun safe when it's all said and done. Chris on YouTube says, "Well, just buy 2 guns." Well, that's the point. The point of what I was talking about was having the ability to have 2 guns from one platform. Now you could, sure, but then I'd have to haul around if I wanted a pistol and a carbine, I'd have to haul both around. And how am I going to haul around a carbine? I guess I could in a backpack, so to speak. But if I've got all the parts or a kit or for a carbine that turns my pistol into a carbine, why wouldn't I be able to? Because that just fits in a small backpack. And again, with just a moment or two, you could have everything put together. Why wouldn't you do that? That's the best of all worlds. So, the ATF was on the news this morning, says Randy, regarding the new regulation of ghost guns. Is that going to affect these conversion kits? I don't believe so, the way that I read. They're talking about more of the home manufacturing and those components. Now, here's the question. If they start to serialize all the different components, because as of right now, only the core piece, only the receiver on a firearm is required to have the serial number on it. But part of what these rules and regs look like, these deeming rules, is that they're going to talk about maybe attempting to put serial numbers on all the pieces, the barrel, the upper, the stock, I mean, everything at this point. So as of right now, no, but it is, it could potentially happen in the future. But I can tell you right now, these new rules are going to get challenged in court, and quite honestly, they're probably going to be struck down eventually. That's my feeling on it, but we'll see what happens. Jeannie asks, "What is the reason for keeping a gun in a backpack?" Well, a variety of reasons. If I'm traveling, if I'm hiking up on trails, or I'm out in the wilderness or out in the woods, or maybe I'm walking through someplace public in a park, I can have a concealed handgun on my hip. But if I'm hiking in unknown territory or walking through places that I don't know or anything else, and I've got an emergency bag on my back, all you have to have is a small little tube with all the pieces and parts in it in your backpack, and you're good to go. There's a variety of reasons. I can't keep a carbine on your hip. That's part of the problem, Jeannie. That's why I'm saying that these kits are handy in a variety of situations. But it's anyway. It's a fun conversation to think about. Maybe we should have a review of some of these carbine kits in the long run. Maybe I can justify that. Maybe I can buy some of these carbine kits and then do the reviews on the air, and then I could write it off as a business expense. Okay. No, not really. But, it's tempting to think about, isn't it? All right, well, we're coming back up on the break again. I just got another line on hold, but I've got to take a quick break, so we're going to let them hold through the break, and we'll come back with more phone calls. It is the Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Come on out and join us on Facebook if you want this morning, facebook.com/Michael Duke Show. You can also find us on YouTube and Twitch. You can also drop me an email, me@michaeldukeshow.com. We'll be back with more. The Michael Duke Show, Common Sense Radio.
our light, our guide, and our trusted friend.
Michael Duke Show.
So when I read Jeannie's comment for the first time, she says, "What's the reason for keeping a gun in a backpack?" And all I could think of was, well, why not? I mean, is that so wrong of me? I mean, why not? Why wouldn't I? I mean, why not? Why wouldn't I do that? I mean, I love that. I think that would be fantastic. Oh man. Yeah, there's some super cool things you can do with these different kits. Where's this one? Here's the use a pistol for greater effective range. That one doesn't give you the full 16-inch barrel though. Where's the one with a 16-inch barrel? They used to have one that had a longer barrel. But here's what you can get. Here's a stabilized. This is the where is it right here? non-NFA. That's what I want right here. Non-NFA pistol. This is the Ronin setup. Where is the split screen with my desktop source with my right here? Okay, so check this out. This is the Ronin, or is it called Ronin? Did they change it? Is it Roni? Micro Roni now? It used to be Ronin. Anyway, here's the new. This is for example, their Gen 4 non-NFA stabilizing setup. It basically just mounts directly on your Glock pistol, and it turns it, gives you some stabilization, gives you a chance to shoot longer, et cetera, et cetera. Maybe was it Ronin? Maybe it's a different company. Anyway, there used to be one that had a longer barrel where you could get like a 10-inch barrel. Or it had a 10-inch barrel built into it. You basically took the Glock receiver and you mounted this whole setup on top of the Glock receiver. It took the place that you take your regular slide off, set your regular slide to the side, and put this on it, and it became basically a rifle, a small carbine, with an overall length of whatever it was. It was non-NFA, so it was not a short-barreled rifle. But so it must have had a 16-inch barrel at that case. But there's some cool different kits out there that you can get for that kind of stuff. They've got all different kinds for you to look at as well. Maybe it was it the Gen 2? I'm looking back here to see. No, that's different stuff. Okay. Anyway, then I would have to buy a Glock, said Greg. Like you needed an excuse for any of that. I mean, hey, there you go. How long to make the conversion, says Brian. I can convert my, mine's not the Roni or whatever. It's one that I put together from Lone Wolf and Phobos and some others. I can have mine converted in probably less than a minute. So, I mean, it's not something that you're going to jump into the middle of a, gunfight or anything with. But if you needed it, it's there. But I could do it in less than, in probably a minute or less. It's pretty quick. It's simple. Break it down, slide the old barrel out, slide the 16-inch barrel in, thread it down, reattach everything, foregrip, shoulder stock, 30 round mag. Away you go. Now you've got a carbine. It's pretty quick. Anyway, it's some interesting stuff and I think an interesting discussion. And I'm glad that Brady brought that up. But yeah, 22, definitely a room in everybody's safe for that, simply because it's just so fun. It's so easy to shoot. And it's really great to bring new people on board with something like that because it's a blast. They just enjoy the heck out of it. Hello to the Lost American Show, who's joining us on Twitch this morning. Let's see. Jeannie says she'll send me more money if I want to review them. She said, I'd keep my rifle on my shoulder and my pistol on my hip. Well, that's great. Again, there's a place for all that. I'm just saying if it's in a survival type situation, or if you've got like a go bag or something like that, or a truck bag, whatever you want to call it, that if you have a pistol and you have the ability to carry that with you, then it gives you that extra little thing. Lost American says, I grew up in the States, but now I live in Germany. Good luck getting a firearm here. Oof, man. Sorry about that. True. It's all hard. I got one of those old 22 camp rifles that breaks down in stores in the stock semi-auto and it floats. You're talking about the Springfield AR-7, isn't that what they called it? The AR-7. It was the little survival rifle. Yeah, that's it right there. Okay. Damn, I turned that down too, and it's still loud and proud. All right, well, we're going to continue here. The Michael Duke Show, Common Sense Radio. Here we go. Okay, welcome back to the program. Thanks for coming in. You're home for common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Common sense. It's amazing they call it common. It's so rare. That's right. That's where we're at today. It is Firearms Friday. That is the one day a week that we dedicate to firearms, the Second Amendment, gun goodness, and more. Don't forget, you could join us on the simulcast. We're simulcasting on Facebook and YouTube and Twitch all at the same time this morning. You're welcome to come on out and join us and talk with us. We had a call before we went to the break, but they hung up because they didn't want to wait for us. So, again, gun Q&A all day. Phone lines are open at 907-433-3150, 907-433-3150 if you would like to be part of the conversation. That's one way for you to do it. You can also, again, do it in the chat room as well if you want to do that online. We'd love for you to be part of it there with us. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about some of the stories that we were going to dive into today. And I was talking earlier on in the hour about how, the games have changed. We've seen over the last, almost 100 years now, since the 1934 National Firearms Act, we've seen, how gun owners have been willing in some ways to kind of be reasonable, bend over backwards, to allow some infringements on their rights for the common good of all citizenry and everything else. But we've seen how that has been continually stretched and pushed. And basically, we were the ones that compromised right up to the point to where how much do we need to compromise, right? Becomes the question. How much do we need to step up and how much more reasonable do we need to be? My buddy Tom Knighton over at Bearing Arms is writing about this today, talking about, that we find ourselves a lot of times at the other side of this kind of political football. We don't support gun control laws after all. But that doesn't mean that because we don't support gun control laws that we don't think that some of the things that have happened out there aren't horrific and horrendous. We just don't think that more gun control laws are going to stop them, right? Because we know how most criminals actually get their guns. Most of them, they get them secondhand, they steal them, they have somebody straw purchase them. And then in the cases of many of these different shooting events, most of them that were acquired legally were done in accordance with the law. I mean, the Parkland shooter He went out to a gun store, did the background check, got the gun. The Sutherland Springs shooter, he went out, passed a background check, even though he shouldn't have because he had a dishonorable discharge and everything else and a psych thing from the Air Force. They just didn't report it properly. He got a gun. You know, the VT shooter, he got a gun legally. I mean, I could go through the list time and time and time again. Name me one more law that would have stopped them from doing this. Because as I've pointed out time and time and time again, these people who do these things, they are criminals, and criminals by their very definition break the law. There's already a law against murder. There's already a law against violent crime. There's already a law against taking firearms into certain areas, on your person, or to shoot or to brandish, or, I mean, there are... So anybody who does, some random act of mass shooting is already breaking probably a dozen different laws. Name me one more law that would have stopped it. And the problem is you can't. What they're really after in the long run is the elimination of firearms because they think that somehow will fix it. The problem is, as we've seen in countries like Australia and England and France and other places, is that when you outlaw guns for all the private citizens, the criminals still don't care. They still go ahead and produce. I mean, we still have the Charlie Hebdo shooting and the attack on the rock concert in France with fully automatic Kalashnikovs. We've still got the bikie gangs down in Australia who've been busted in whole machine shops where they're manufacturing illegal machine guns. I mean, that's the problem. They're criminals. But it doesn't matter. Many people, know that we don't support these laws, but it doesn't stop them from thinking that we should. Here is a piece out of the that Tom references out of the Kennesaw News, written by this woman, Kay Stelpflung. She says, "I'm not even sure why this is an issue that continues to be debated, argued, and defended. Background checks and time limits are not taking away anyone's rights. To own a musket and flintlock pistol is your right. Even a dueling pistol could be tucked away should the need arise. To awaken at dawn for the meeting with your wife's lover in a field. This event would need to be planned and witnessed, with the winner going to prison, of course." Okay, so let me unpack that for just a second. She says, "I'm not even sure why this issue continues to be debated. Background checks and time limits are not taking away anyone's rights. A right delayed is a right denied. It is not a right, therefore, it is a privilege. What if I said that we had to run a background check on you and issue you a 10-day waiting period for you to post something on Facebook or to write this letter to the editor of this opinion piece? Wouldn't that be an infringement on your First Amendment right to have to wait and get government approval and have a background check run on you to make sure you're saying the right things? Then this whole thing about to own a musket and a flintlock pistol is your right, even the dueling, and then she gets snarky about the dueling pistol, and the condescension is so thick in this, and this is part of the problem with a lot of these anti-gun folks. It's that feeling of superiority, but to own a musket and a flintlock pistol is your right. If you're equating the Second Amendment to the flintlock pistol and the musket, well, then the First Amendment should be basically equated to the printing press. And the room full of scribes hand scribing and rewriting things, because maybe that's what the First Amendment should only cover. The First Amendment should only cover the printed and spoken word that can only be heard within the sound of somebody's voice, because they didn't have radio, television, internet, any of those things, right? But this is the mindset of this. She goes on to say, "I can't imagine gun owners not being appalled by what has occurred repeatedly at the hands of the irresponsible few. It would seem to me responsible gun owners would support stricter controls, knowing that if the gun violence continues to play out, severe gun laws will be inevitable for all." Okay, so first of all, I can't imagine gun owners not being appalled. We are appalled. We are appalled by these acts of violence that happen. The problem is, we do not believe that stricter controls will help. What we're doing is we're putting it's like putting a Band-Aid on a bleeding femoral artery. You can't do that. right? I mean, you're addressing the symptom and not the root cause of the disease. Then she goes on to say, taking guns out of the hands of unstable and violent shooters would save some 38,000 Americans who die from gun violence every year. Again, pushing the false narrative. That 38,000 includes 27,000 people who kill themselves with firearms, who commit suicide. That's the conflation. The actual number of homicides with firearms is somewhere in the 10 to 11,000 people range. It's probably spiked up a little bit this year, but overall, it runs between 10 and 12,000 people a year are murdered with firearms. Now, statistically speaking, in a country with 320 million people, that's a pretty low number. But don't keep conflating this 38,000 with suicide. People who are going to commit suicide are also going to commit suicide no matter what. If you take away one tool, they'll do something else. They'll jump in front of a train. They'll hang themselves. They'll find pills. They'll gas themselves in the garage. Whatever it is, the firearm just happens to be the most convenient thing available. It's not going to slow it down. But this author just can't imagine gun owners not being appalled. Well, we are. But again, show me one more thing that will stop what's going on. We've been reasonable in 1934, 1968, all these laws. None of them seem to have reduced violent crime. I mean, you used to be able to go to a hardware store and just buy a gun, right? You didn't require an FFL. You didn't require a background check. You used to be able to order a Thompson machine gun in the mail, and they would send it to you. No big deal. Yeah, we didn't have drive-bys and all this other kind of stuff. I mean, people go, well, Al Capone and the thing. Very limited instances of that kind of stuff. It wasn't happening every day in downtown Los Angeles. But this is, look, we're as Tom says, we're done being reasonable. We tried reasonable. We tried explaining to you. And I would say at this point, not one more inch. We don't need any more. Not one more inch should we move on this. Because you cannot show me that your ideas of universal background checks and high-capacity magazine bans and all these other things that they keep talking about, you cannot show me that they would have stopped any one of these instances of violence and gun crime. I mean, again, because I can point you to the fact that many of these shooters bought their guns legally and lawfully. What you really want is you want to disarm everybody because you think that in a utopian society, if all guns are outlawed, then nobody will have them. But again, the old axiom of when guns are outlawed, only outlaws will have guns carries through because they are criminals. They will break the law. We can point you to country after country where that's happened. All right, we got to go. Hour 2 dead ahead. The Michael Duke Show. Common Sense Radio. The Aussie bikies are smart. If you're going to make illegal guns, make illegal guns. I mean, that's the thing, right? I was always like, if you're in for a penny, in for a pound, I mean, if it's already illegal to own a gun, then why not just go full hog and get a machine gun if that's the case? If it's already, excuse me. I mean, if it's already illegal, then what's again, in for a penny, in for a pound. And I keep going back to that whole thing in France with Charlie Hebdo and the attacks on the thing. And I mean, these guys were terrorists, don't get me wrong, but they got their hands on fully automatic Kalashnikovs. These were not Saturday Night Specials. And whether they bought them, whether they smuggled them in or whatever, they're available. Bad people are going to do bad things. That's why we call them bad people, right? They don't care how many laws are there or on the books. That's not their point. They've decided to do what they're going to do. All right. All right. All 4 lines are open. What does Willie Waffle carry? A Glock? Question mark. Willie Waffle lives in New York State. I doubt that he carries much of anything at that point. What's the reason for keeping a gun in a backpack? Greg says bug out bag. Yeah. I mean, there are times when, well, I guess I would just say to you in that regard, gray man. Gray man. For those of you who don't know what the gray man concept is, it means that you are not walking around loud and proud with your tactical swagger, but that you look like any other Joe on the street. You're still armed, you're still ready, you're prepared, but you look like every other Joe on the street. You're just, you're just quiet, and the eyes slide right off you. They go right on by. And if you're in a situation where, there is something that, you need to protect yourself from, or if there is, a situation where you need to make it out of an area or do something like that, you can't really be gray man when you're all in your full battle rattle. You know what I mean? You can't be walking around with an AR strapped to your chest, walking down Main Street with a crowd of people, thinking that somebody's not going to pick you out and say, hey, that guy might be looking for trouble. But if you're just, Joe Schmo with your backpack over your shoulder and your coat on, and you're just walking with everybody else with your head down, then, there you go. Rifle in a backpack. Think natural disaster, says Rick. Yeah, I mean, exactly. And I mean, I carry a bunch of stuff. I've got a emergency bag, a go bag, a 72-hour bag, a bug out bag, whatever you want to call it. I mean, I've got one. I've got one for my family. I got another bag that goes in my car if I'm going to be traveling. I mean, I've got those things. Why wouldn't you? Just in case? Just don't know. Agreed. But people need to pack a backup. I'd never walk through the bush without a pistol on my hip and long gun in my hands or on my shoulder. Well, no, I'm not talking about going out hunting in the bush. I'm talking about if you're on a trail, if you're on the edge of the woods, if you're doing those things. Again, gray man. Gray man. Just saying. Just saying. Plenty of laws on the books. Enforcement of existing laws is lax. Yep. Mine were cased behind this. Oh, when I drove to school, when I was in high school, anyone that drove had a rifle in their back. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I remember that. It used to happen all the time. You can't even take a gun onto school grounds these days. Doty says, I remember those days well, and no school shootings. How about that? I'm so thankful I grew up during those times, but so sad our kids and grandkids will never know how truly free and great America was back then. It's because people stopped parenting, says Jeannie. Okay. Bob for each vehicle. Bob is bug out bag. Bob for each vehicle. You have to walk more like Rain Man just to fit into today's society. I mean, it is a challenge. If you ever decide to go full on gray man, right? I mean, when I'm walking around, when I'm walking around in public doing things, my head is kind of on a swivel, right? I'm trying to have situational awareness to see things ahead of time, which means you meet people's eyes and you look around, and I probably look more alert than the average bear. And so if you're trying to go gray man, that you're going to have to tone that down a little bit and, put your head down and shuffle and maybe look at your phone or whatever. You have to find some way to do that. But definitely you may have to walk a little bit like Rain Man, just to Wapner, just to fit in. That might be the case. Wapner. Okay. Well, I got some other stories, but is there anything else you guys want to talk about this morning since you're here, the 38 of you or whatever who are here with us this morning? Anything else you guys want to talk about this morning related to firearms? feel free to drop it in the chat room this morning and tell me if you got questions, if you got things you have some curiosity about or anything else. We don't have any phone calls this morning, so we're ready to go. We're going to jump back into it. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Here we go. Hour 2, dead ahead.
Whoa, buddy. Put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
The Michael Duke Show.
I have 2 guns, one for each of you.
Firearms Friday.
As Thomas Jefferson stated, it is the right and duty of the people to be at all times armed.
Say hello to my little friend.
I say that the Second Amendment is, in order of importance, the First Amendment. The right to keep and bear arms is the one right that allows rights to exist at all.
The Michael Duke Show. The right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Not be infringed. Firearms.
From my cold, dead hands.
Friday.
Here's my rifle, this is my gun. This is for fighting, this is for fun.
Firearms Friday.
Oh, yeah. Firearms Friday, your chance to sound off on issues of a 2A nature right here on The Michael Duke Show. Hello, my friends. Hello. How are you doing? You ready to jump into it and talk about guns and gun rights and more? And then, of course, as always, on the weekend, we're going to finish things up with our friend Willie Waffle from WaffleMovies.com, who's going to come on board with us and dissect whatever's coming out at the this weekend. That's right, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. He's going to have some reviews for that with that on us, and we'll also have some entertainment news and everything else. So I'm loving it. I'm loving it as well. So today is Firearms Friday, and it's Gun Q&A, meaning the phone lines are open right now at 907-433-3150. If you'd like to call in and talk about anything that's firearms related this morning, whether it's advice, whether it's a range review or range report, talking about your favorite firearm or whatever it is that you want to discuss, we are here for you to discuss it this morning. Feel free to dive in on the phone and talk to us there. You can also talk with us in the chat room, which is available over on Facebook or on YouTube or on Twitch. But Facebook is probably the easiest at facebook.com/Michael Duke Show. Feel free to dive in with us over there and talk about it with us at that place as well. Some interesting discussions coming into the chat room during the break. We were talking about carbines earlier and some of the different carbine kits for pistols and stuff like that. We talked about the concept of being unobtrusive in public. It's one of the reasons why while I believe that open carry should be legal and allowed, I am very much philosophically opposed to the people who walk into Starbucks with an AR-15 strapped to their chest trying to make some kind of point. Because I don't think it's winning friends and influencing people. So we're talking about like the gray man idea of just being unobtrusive and just carrying on about your day. And if you need to deal with a situation, then you need to, you deal with it. We've talked about that as well. We just finished up with a story talking about how some folks out there who, after they look down their nose at us at every opportunity, then just say that we should be more reasonable when it comes to gun laws and gun control. And to that I say, I'm done being reasonable. That's what I say. And then there's the question about why are you preaching and why are you chastising gun owners when we are some of the most, when we are the most law-abiding, generally speaking, amongst the populace. In fact, an interesting statistic that John Lott has talked about several times, Dr. John Lott, is a statistic that shows that concealed carry permit holders across the country are pretty much the most law-abiding demographic in America. In fact, concealed carry permit holders are more lawful than police officers. There are more instances of police officers breaking the law, getting caught, and being prosecuted for breaking the law than there are for concealed carry permit holders. And that is, that's a pretty big statistic, But all they do is they continue to call out for all these common sense and reasonable gun laws, or gun safety measures, as they like to say it. It's a pretty amazing thing, and I'm going to tell you why that makes no sense whatsoever. But first, we're going to go to the phones and see what what you have to say at 433-3150 over here. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Good morning, John from Kodiak.
Good morning, John. What's happening down there on the Emerald Isle?
Normal day. Hey, I have a law that if you pass it will reduce gun violence in quotation marks. You want to hear it?
I can't wait. Hit me with it.
Law enforcement always has the right at any time to search any convicted felon, the vehicle that they're in, and the domicile that they are in, regardless of if that vehicle or domicile is theirs.
So
and to facilitate that law, every felon will have a big capital letter F on the front of their driver's license.
So if you pop your ID out and it's got the big red scarlet letter on it right in the middle of it, then they're like, okay, spread them, drop them and spread them, and open your doors and let me in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Won't that reduce gun violence?
Well, you'd think, I think what you're getting at here, and you're right, in that regard, but I guess what you're getting at here is that if we actually prosecuted criminals instead of having it be the revolving door, then maybe you're right. Then maybe we could slow this down. Now, I would say that I am a believer in people who have committed felonies, especially nonviolent felonies, that if they serve their time and they do everything else, I believe that they should be reintegrated into society and should have all their rights restored, including their gun rights, because that's the whole idea behind paying your debt to society. But at the same time, if you've got violent criminals who did those kind of things, I'm not so sure that I wouldn't support that idea. But again, how about just actually prosecuting the people the first time around so it doesn't just become a slap on the hand and send them in?
Most repeat offenders are the gang members and criminals. So if you gave that right to all law enforcement, it would, number one, it would set the liberals' hair on fire. That in itself, just to hear your argument, I would love that.
Yeah. No, I like this. I like kind of the idea and the concept behind it. I think it has to be more nuanced because, again, we're not cookie cutters. Again, not all felonies are created equal. And since there are 300,000 federal laws on the books, federal crimes on the books, and we all break one or two of them every day, I would like to be a little cautious about it. But again, I think it comes back down to the base argument of let's prosecute criminals for what they're actually doing instead of, making plea deals and letting them go scot-free or out on bail or whatever. So, but John, that's a great idea.
Love your show.
Thank you so much for calling in. I'd love to hear more about it. Again, I think this comes back to nuance. Some felons, says Jimmy in the chat room, have a class 4, which is basically a misdemeanor, yet they are still a felon. Again, like I said, maybe it should only be for a certain type or a certain thing. And technically they still can be searched. I mean, John is right, is that if you are, well, I guess not if your parole and your probation is over, I don't know. Maybe somebody who's been in law enforcement can tell me. I think you still, when you're on parole or on probation, they still have that right. But once all that's done, then I think you don't have, I don't think that they have the right to just search you at any given time. But we'll see. We'll see what happens here. Wow, the chat room got real dark for a second there. Jonathan's like, pedophilia should be punished by the death penalty. Okay, yeah, I'm not disagreeing with that, but that's really not where we're at right now on this. But speaking of, maybe we should, prosecute the crimes. How about this one? Remember the Twin Cities? That's where Minneapolis, the whole thing with George Floyd, and where that went down. And so federal prosecutors there, it's also the source of the defund the police movement, remember? But federal prosecutors there are going to try something new. They're going to, prosecute people. According to the TwinCities.com, Minnesota's new U.S. attorney said Tuesday his office will refocus the effort to combat violent crime by adding more resources as well as charging and prosecuting suspected adult carjackers at the federal level. U.S. Attorney Andrew Lugar was joined by several federal and local law enforcement officials, including the police chiefs of St. Paul and Minneapolis, in announcing that his office called the Federal Violent Crime Strategy. They are going to refocus the entire office around the effort to combat violent crime. Starting now, he said, every federal prosecutor will add violent crime cases in addition to their other work. They're going to add somewhere between 5 and 8 new additional prosecutors, and they're going to start charging a lot of these crimes as federal crimes. So they're going to prosecute the bad guys, which, I guess they should have been doing from the very beginning. Will it make a difference? Well, I guess we'll see. And of course, my fear is that at some point this can bleed over into some other things, basically including federal overreach, where you've got local crimes that are being charged at the federal level. So, I think that there's a line there as well. But hey, wait, shocking. We're going to actually prosecute crimes. Okay, that's probably a good idea. I think that would make sense, All right, let's go over to the phones and see what you have to say. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Good morning, Michael. This is Ron in North Pole.
Good morning, my friend.
Well, I believe the gentleman was from Kodiak that when we were talking about the Scarlet Letter.
Yes.
That already exists for those individuals who are on parole or probation.
Right, that's what I was saying.
Incorporated into the general conditions.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. But I don't think once you've served your parole or you're off probation, then that no longer applies, right? You have to be on parole or probation for that basically to be open season on your rights at that point.
Well, it does have some bleed over in as much as under Section 1161-200 of the Alaska Criminal Code, it clearly defines what's legal and what's not as far as people who have history of convictions. And it speaks primarily to handguns, rifles, shotguns, that sort of thing.
Right.
Do not fall into the same category.
Well, you've got
in other words, the issue of concealability.
Right. You've got some background in this. What do you think is the solution, in your humble opinion, on this kind of stuff? Is it again a criminal problem where we need to be, either harder on them from the start or harder when they're returning, or is it? What do you think is the solution? And what do you think of John's suggestion of, the Scarlet Letter, so to speak, or whatever, to be able to basically search them at any time?
Well, I would simply say that the only time that particular condition of parole or probation can be carried out is either with the direct presence and order of the supervising probation or parole officer, unless there is something like, let us say, exigent circumstances where geography prevents that officer from being present and the violation is discovered by a peace officer. then that authority can be delegated.
Right. Okay.
But you'd better have some really good exigent circumstances to make that stick.
Right. So you're saying,
in other words.
So you're saying if the average Joe law enforcement officer rolls up on a felon on probation driving a car, and he has some kind of suspicion that he has to wait for a supervisor to come over to search the felon and the vehicle, or because he's under probation, he can do it on his own?
Well, as I say, exigency has its limits. However, if it's 3:00 in the morning and the officer calls the supervising officer at home, he can in fact delegate that authority.
Okay. All right. Well,
it's
yeah, no.
Having been involved in some search and seizure cases that resulted in new criminal convictions that went all the way to the Supreme Court, I do have some background in that, and I would simply say on a basis of law, based on those Supreme Court and appellate court decisions, that we, in the vast majority of cases, prevailed.
So, do you think that we should be more strident in prosecuting first-time cases to begin with? Would that fix some of this recidivism, or what are your thoughts on that?
Well, you get into an area of, I suppose, the right description would be greater good, because we're always facing a problem of limited facility in order to house convicted people who are sent to jail. And so many times courts weigh that very heavily in their decision as to whether to incarcerate or not.
Well, I wish we had all the solutions here. We don't.
I mean, yeah. It's a very sticky issue, and has so many permutations that we couldn't possibly discuss all of them in our telephone conversation.
Right. Well, I guess the things that stick in our mind, though, Ron, are the things like the what was the story? Remember when Rittenhouse remember when he got arrested? At the same time, there was another youth about his age, a young black guy, who basically went out and shot a bunch of people and had gotten out on bail, like the next day at like $50,000 bail or something. It was something ridiculously low. And there was videos of him online partying and bragging about it, and in the next day and things like that. And yet Rittenhouse was being run through the meat grinder kind of thing. And people are like, wait, this doesn't make any sense. You shoot 5 people, you get out. I mean, there's got to be some equitability in this, and there's got to be some common sense. And it just didn't seem like some of these things are being exercised.
Well, I think that we can always throw the blame on somebody else, but there are many judicial officers who are reticent to set high bails or no bails simply because they feel there's either an overcrowding in the prisons, or else they're doing the wrong thing as far as considering the individual's potential for rehabilitation.
Yeah.
And as I say, it gets very convoluted.
Yeah, it is. It's not an easy soundbite fix, that's for sure. Ron, thank you for your call, my friend. It's good to hear from you. Appreciate you sounding off today. Folks, we're out of time. We got more. One more segment coming up on guns, and then Willie Waffle, The Michael Dukes Show, Common Sense Radio.
Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay. I was going to try and turn that thing down. Wait, I can turn it down, can I? Sorry, I was laughing because that alarm has scared the hell out of me both times that I've used it. Let me turn it down here a little bit and see if that fixes it. Almost peed my pants the last time. Da-dang. Okay. Let me go back to the chat room to see what you guys have been talking about here. Did you see that the guy who attacked Dave Chappelle in L.A. had a gun knife? Yet that worthless DA George Gaskin said the crime wasn't a felony and he didn't prosecute misdemeanors, so the guy won't be charged. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Guy full-on body tackles Chappelle on stage with a gun knife. And I mean, wouldn't that be an assault with a deadly weapon? That's a misdemeanor? Or what? I know people are scratching their heads. People are scratching their heads on that thing. Lack of ammunition, is it first-time gun owners buying 3 to 4 boxes? Or is it ammo scalpers? I think it's a combination of the two things. I mean, we talked about this late last year with the number of new gun owners. They were saying that it was somewhere along the lines of, what was it? Was it 2 or 4 million new gun owners? I can't remember what the number was. But, I mean, you figured that you're talking, even on the low end, 2 million new gun owners. Now, let's say that each one of those 2 million new gun owners bought 2 boxes of ammunition, just 100 rounds. Okay? 2 million times 100. I mean, you're talking about millions and millions. And if it was 4 million, then it's even, and statistically, woof. I think that is still I think what you're seeing now is still a reaction to a lot of the first-time gun owners trying to buy ammunition, or maybe trying to resupply after originally buying ammunition. I mean, we've got more gun owners now than ever before. One of the stories that I was going to get to that I don't have enough. Where is the chart? There was a chart here I was looking at earlier this morning. Here it is. That the annual growth rate for the NICS checks alone shows that 2020 and 2021 was just insane. I mean, we had 2 million NICS background checks in 20 and 21, nearly 2 million for each one of those. Overall, we had something like, 28 million NICS background checks in 2020 alone. I mean, you start talking about, and a big chunk of those being new gun owners. I think, maybe it was 8 million because half of them were minorities, women, things like that. When the NSSF broke that down, they found that there was a 49% increase in sales to Hispanic buyers, 58% increase in blacks, 43% in Asians, and they said nearly half of a lot of the new gun owners were women. So it's an interesting thing, but I think, Sean, that the lack of ammunition is still the fact that when you start putting on 5, 6, 8 million new gun owners a year after year for 2 or 3 years, that is going to be a serious issue with your ammunition supply. When I worked at a gun shop in New York, says Daniel, they were just flat out denying and delaying people because of the volume. Not because they came up wrong, but because of the volume. I had the same thing. I bought a shotgun here, I don't know, I think it was a year ago, and I was delayed. And it was strictly, according to the FFL that I was dealing with, he says, I see this all the time, people who've never been delayed or denied before, now getting delayed over and over again, and it's always because of the volume of what they're dealing with. All right, well, you know what that means. Time to jump back into it. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. It's interesting. We were just talking about anyway, somebody just brought up this stockpile issue. I actually posted a picture about this to the Common Sense Corps Facebook page, which, by the way, if you're not a member of the Common Sense Corps, you can be. The Common Sense Corps is our fan club, the Cool Kids Club, right? It's where you go to help support the show. For as little as a cup of coffee a month, you could help keep us on the air. And in fact, we're broadcasting this morning from our brand newly rebuilt computer that got wrecked. And it's because of the contributions of the Common Sense Corps members I was able to get it back online so fast. And I want to say thank you to them for helping to do that. But anyway, I posted it to the private Facebook group that the Common Sense Corps members get to join. And it was a picture of out of a newscast. And I want to make sure that I quote it correctly. So let me grab it real quick out of the deal. It's a picture from ABC News, and it's got a picture of this guy, and it says, underneath his picture, it says, "Suspect's stockpile is found." And then on the right-hand side, it lists out what they found. 1,000 rounds of ammunition, 1 Remington rifle, 2 scopes. Stockpile. And stockpile? 1 rifle, 2 scopes, and 1,000 rounds is a stockpile? Don't look at me. Don't look in this direction. This is so reminiscent of a story that I remember from about 4 or 5 years ago, where they talk about, going into some guy, searching some guy's house, and they were reporting that he came out with an arsenal. And his arsenal was laid out on the hood of the cruiser, kind of thing. And it was 2 pistols, 3 rifles, including a .22, and like 500 rounds of ammunition. That was an arsenal of things. And I just keep saying, you keep using that word. It doesn't mean what I think you think it means. Because that is just, but I mean, this is how the news media continues to frame a lot of these arguments, right? That, my God, you've got 2 guns, you've got 3 guns, you've got 100 rounds of ammunition. That's a stockpile, an arsenal. What are you going to do? I mean, have you? Wow. Most guys are like, I got more than that in my truck. You know what I mean? Oh, hashtag Alaska problems. That's what I'm saying. Hashtag Alaska problems. All right. Well, we're going to go to the phones. I got some more stories, but let's go to the phones here. We're going to run out of time here for too long. So we'll continue on with your phone calls. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Carlene in Kodiak.
Hello.
The stockpile sounds more like a starter kit.
Yeah, exactly. That's in Alaska. We do call that a starter kit. Here's 1,000 rounds, 1 rifle, and 2 scopes. That is your basic starter kit. That's not even the deluxe starter kit, Carlene, because there was no pistols in it. So it's the basic starter kit.
Hey, I got a jar of pickles in my cupboard.
Yeah, exactly.
Thanks, Michael.
All right.
I know.
Thanks, Carlene. I appreciate it. That's what we call the minimum basic requirements. 1 rifle, 1,000 rounds, and 2 scopes. A basic minimum requirement for what's going on. All right. Well, let me tease you with a few of the things that I wanted to get to today, but we're obviously not going to be able to have enough time to deal with it. I covered that one. And I covered that one. Okay, over here. There's a new article out talking about the new defensive gun uses. America's First Freedom's got an article up about it. And we've talked about defensive gun use on this program many times. We again talking about the snarky lady whose opinion piece talked about the 38,000 gun deaths, death by gun violence every year, and all that kind of stuff. And how that 38,000 was wrong and conflated. But, one thing that they never talk about, and the one thing the news media never points out, is the number of times that a gun is used defensively. And that doesn't even mean that it's fired. It means that the mere presence of a firearm stops it. Well, there's a new study out. The most recent study shows that about 1.6 million times annually, there are defensive gun uses. 1.6 million times. And in fact, the study shows that over a lifetime, about 1/3 of gun owners will use a firearm defensively at least once. And I've used my firearm. Now, it doesn't mean I fired my firearm, But again, the mere presence of a firearm can stop a crime or an altercation. That's what DGU is about, the defensive gun use. And 1.6 million times. There's been a lot of different studies on it. One, ranging from the ones Terrence, like Terrence in 1994, they did a DGU study that showed that it was 760,000 times annually. And the same year, the Los Angeles Times did a DGU study and showed that it was 3.6 million times. But the gold-plated study on this is Gary Gleck's study from 1993. And he conducted a survey that had much more methodologically sophisticated components than any of the other polls that have been used so far. And he found that the midpoint estimate is about 2.5 million DGUs annually with a possible range of 2 to 3 million. So right there in the middle, about 2.5 million. So 2.5 million times a year, defensive gun use happens. Now, there was also a poll that came out of Harvard. I think the lowest one ever was the one that came out of Harvard that showed that it was something like 98,000 times a year. Still, 98,000 times a year defensive gun use versus the number of actual homicides, which is about 11 to 12,000. So even at the lowest end, DGUs accounts for 10 times the number of actual homicides with a firearm. And if you go all the way up to 2.6 million, ooh, baby. I really wanted to get more into that article, but we're just not going to have time today to do it. So maybe we'll pick that up for next week. All right, my friends. We will talk with you. Got more coming up. The Michael Duke Show. Common Sense Radio.
Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay, in the break, in Alaska, it's not how many guns, but how many gun safes. That's true. Oh man, I remember seeing the pictures of the like one of the largest gun safes in the world or something. The damn thing's like 10 feet tall and like 7 feet wide or something. And I'm like, the shocking thing is that I know 2 or 3 people that could use one of those. Instead of having 1, 2, 3, 4 safes along the edge of their garage, they could have just this big one, and it would be just fine. Just fine. What do you call it when a person has 30 pairs of shoes and boots? Well, I call it Beverly Hills, right? I mean, why do you need more of those? Why do you need more of? I mean, I only have really 1 pair of shoes and 1 pair of boots. Why do you need any more? Right? Why do you need any more of those? I mean, they get the job done. I should ask that to somebody. Why do you need more guns? Well, I don't know. How many pairs of shoes do you have? Or better yet, how many fire extinguishers do you? Can you have too many fire extinguishers? I'm just asking. Alaskan, a heavily armed North American with pilot bread. Oh, so true. Donna says only 30 pairs of shoes? Don't tell me, Donna. Do you have a walk-in closet with a lot of shoes? I'm asking. I'm just asking for a friend. See, I want the walk-in closet that's got the miniature submarine steel hatch on it, because my walk-in closet is full of guns. That's what I want. Could I shoot them all? Probably not, but God, I love owning them, right? I love owning them. Donna Imelda Marcos. That's who. Oh my God, Jeannie and I are dating ourselves at this point. Imelda Marcos. Probably half the chat room's going, who? Oh man. Oh man. Okay. An arsenal for Mayberry RFD, says Chris. Seriously? That's not stockpiling. Yeah, I know. Exactly. That's not stockpiling. I mean, I don't know. What's higher than an arsenal? What's higher than a stockpile? I mean, if 1 rifle and 1,000 rounds and 2 scopes is a stockpile, and 3 rifles, 2 pistols, and 500 rounds is an arsenal, what's the next level? I mean, a plethora of thing? You know, do they? I don't. I feel like I want to make a meme of that scene in The Matrix where, you know, they show that picture of the guy with his stockpile of gun, 1,000 rounds, and then the next scene it's Keanu Reeves going, guns, lots of guns in The Matrix, and all those shelves. I mean, thousands and thousands of rifles zoom up around him. That's what I want. Armory. Okay, armory. I guess it's an arsenal, then becomes an armory, a depot. I just feel like I want to make a meme now out of that. I just want to do that. All right. You guys are all on the same sheets of music here. I got 2 armories and 2 depots. I'll see your 2 armories and I'll raise you to a depot. A depot. Oh, Greg, I think you're going to have to find another one beyond that for you, buddy. That's all I'm saying. I think we're going to have to find whatever's higher than a depot. Then is it a supply dump? Is that what it is? It's a dump. It's a supply dump. Any normal Alaskan household has at least a arsenal. I think. I mean, you know, if you've got guns in Alaska, you skipped right over the stockpile and went right to arsenal. A dump. That's right. It's a supply dump. My God, we should make a chart. We should make a chart on that. Stockpile, arsenal, armory, depot, dump. Oh, you guys are killing me. Logistical supply area, LSA. Oh my God, that is so funny. Well, I mean, it's amazing, but this is, I mean, you know, we laugh at it, but this is the thing. I mean, that's what the news media portrays it as. It's a stockpile. It's an arsenal. I mean, 1,000 rounds is nothing. I mean, when you can go and shoot 200 rounds in an afternoon, that is absolutely, I mean, that's absolutely nothing. When you could shoot 200 rounds in an afternoon. Right? I mean, that makes no sense whatsoever. Okay. I got to do something here real quick. Right here. Okay. Okay, here we go. The Michael Dukes Show. Common sense, liberty-based. Free thinking radio. Like and share this show. Like and share this video. Let's get into it. Let's do this thing. Thanks for being part of it today. Well, you know what I'm talking about now. Yep, talking about the movies. Bringing me to it for the weekend is the one, the only, the man, the myth, the legend, Willie Waffle. Hello, my friend. How are you doing today?
I'm feeling pretty good. It is the start of the summer movie season. It officially begins this week, and people are heading out to the movies. I was there myself last night, and it was a full crowd for Doctor Strange.
Was it really a full crowd? Surprising.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think, well, you know, and these are the types of movies that are going to get full crowds. You know, young people, you know, let's be honest. We've seen since COVID, the people who want to go to the movies tend to be about 12 to 34, and they want the big blockbusters. They're going to see Doctor Strange.
Right.
They're going to see Spider-Man. They might see Top Gun. We'll see.
Okay. Well, I'm down with that. I'm okay with that. I haven't seen a movie in almost 3 years. At the theater. I've watched lots of movies, just not at the theater. So I'm okay with that. I'm down. I think we can figure it out. So where do you want to start? I mean, you just went and watched Doctor Strange, but I know we got some entertainment news. How about the people? It looks like Chris Rock, man. That guy needs to get himself a good dentist, apparently.
Well, it's Dave Chappelle took a big beating.
Dave
week.
Chappelle, not Chris Rock. I'm sorry, Dave Chappelle. That's right.
Yep. So Dave Chappelle was performing at a Netflix event at the Hollywood Bowl. It was featuring many comedians who have specials on Netflix. And for lack of a better term, some crazy dude jumped up on the stage and tackled him.
And what was the reason for that? I mean, what the heck?
We don't know. Dave Chappelle instantly joked that it must be somebody trans. And there is a theory out there that this is somebody who is upset with Dave Chappelle and what he feels are inappropriate statements about the LGBTQ community and trans people and some of the things that he talks about. That is not official because this person also has some severe mental illness, and by his own family's admission, he has not been taking his medication, and he ran up on that stage and he tackled Dave Chappelle, and it was like a football tackle.
Wow.
It was like he hit him straight in the middle of the gut, and he had a knife that looked like a gun, so it was modeled after a gun, and it was like a switchblade, and the knife would come out. Well, security got a hold of the guy, and let's just say the picture that will live forever is that when he was being taken to the ambulance, his arm was bending the other way.
Oh, man. Yeah, well, I mean, you're not messing around. You're supposed to be protecting these guys. You already feel stupid because the guy got all the way up on stage. Yeah, you might overreact just a little bit.
Yeah, well, but here's my favorite part. So Chris Rock is there. He works with Netflix.
Right.
He ran out on the stage. He wanted to make sure Dave Chappelle was okay. Dave Chappelle's standing up. He's feeling okay. It's obvious everything's okay. Chris Rock takes the microphone and he says, "Was that Will Smith?"
Oh, man. Oh, man. Yeah, I saw a quote from Howie Mandel, who said, "This is the beginning of the end for comics," and I'm just like, I
wouldn't go that far. I think that it's a crazy set of circumstances that came together in a very short period of time. I mean, I don't think we're ever going to see another actor at the Oscars slap a comedian. We've had people run on stages before. That's not something new. I mean, that happens to rock stars. It happens to comedians. I wouldn't go so far as to say it's the end of comedy.
Right.
Plus, because we really don't know what the guy's true motivation was, and it seems like most of his motivation was he has trouble.
He's mental, so that's expected. All right, well, maybe it just means that the big time comedians are going to have big mosh pit security right up against the edge of the stage all night. So we'll see what happens with that. All right, well, let's talk about something that I really don't care about, which is the network rankings for television. Now, full disclosure, I haven't watched network television in 15 years. It's really been that long. I had cable, and there may have been some network shows on there, but I really didn't watch. I mean, since the streaming, I'm watching shows that are made by CBS and Fox and Paramount, but I'm watching them through the streaming service. I'm not watching them on television. What does this ranking cover, and what does it tell us?
So it tells you which networks were the most watched based on their average number of primetime viewers. Okay, so
we're
CBS
talking live TV.
Live TV.
Okay.
So CBS was number one for the 14th straight season. Now, how many people do you think is the average number of viewers that they have in prime time at any night?
Prime time, nationwide, anytime, any night, 3 million people.
Wow, you were a lot lower than I thought you would go. 6.35 million.
6.35. Okay, I didn't want to overshoot.
Which to me seemed pretty low.
Yeah, no, I mean, I would think that it would be higher than that, but the more I think about this and the cutting the cord and the more reading I do, I sent you that article the other day that was talking about some of this stuff, and I'm just like, wow, man, I don't know. The paradigm is shifting, and network television doesn't have an outlet to change with it.
No, but I think what you're seeing is they're all going into the streaming, like you said. I mean, every one of the networks has some sort of streaming right now, and they're using it more and more. Like you said, CBS, the number one network. Well, they've got Paramount Plus. What are they putting out there? Some pretty heavy duty stuff. Star Trek, Star Trek stuff. They had their Godfather series.
Yep.
They've got other stuff coming. NBC has the Peacock. They're number two, and they were number one with adults 18 to 49. So as I'm working through the list, this is my favorite. So I'll just go through the list. Wait until you hear this. Fox is third. ABC is fourth. Univision is number 5. Telemundo is 6th. And in 7th and last place, the CW, averaging 655,000 people a night.
Oh, those poor guys. I mean, used to be the WB, now it's a CW, now it's this, now it's that. Oh, well. I mean, I did download their app on the stream, and it was pretty wonky and useless, so I just deleted it. But that's too bad. I mean, it is what it is. Like I said, I think things are changing so fast, and I think here's the thing. It's the on-demand thing. I do not like to wait. I do not want to wait. I do not want to have to. If I want to binge watch one show or 5 shows, I want to be able to do it. 1 episode or 5 episodes, I want to be able to do it. And I think that's where more and more of us are going, because our time is valuable, and we're, I don't want to have to block. Oh, I got to get home to watch my soaps or whatever. I mean, that's just insane. It should be on my time. I think that there will be a slice of the population that always watches broadcast TV, but I think it's going to continue to diminish.
Well, and I'm surprised, though, when we talk about, binging and watching on the streams, Netflix is really the only one that does that.
Yeah. Well, it's true, because there's some of them don't drop all the episodes. Some of them do, some of them don't, but just stop with the weekly dribble. That's all I'm saying. Stop with the weekly dribble. I can't take it anymore. All right. We got time for maybe one more story. Unless let's jump into the streams.
Let's do it.
Because we've only got about 6 minutes here. So, we've got Doctor Strange, the Pentaveret, and Bosch Legacy, which all 3 of them, I can't wait to talk to me about it.
Well, and I know you're excited about Bosch Legacy. We're going to start there on Amazon Prime.
I love it.
And this is where I'm going to say to you, and this is a moment I've been waiting to say to you, I've seen the first episode.
He finally watched the first episode of Bosch. Good for you.
No, the new series, Bosch Legacy,
you did?
Which is available starting today.
Oh, okay. Well, I hate you.
I got to watch it a few days ago.
Oh, now I really hate you. But you haven't watched a single episode of Bosch, so you're totally
lost. So I think I lost a lot of the nuance here.
Yeah.
Yes. But, it really it's about Bosch's life now that he's left the police force. He's working as a private investigator. He's still supporting his daughter, who now has become an LAPD officer. She's in training right now. And I guess this is a big deal. He has now joined forces with Honey Chandler, played by Mimi Rogers.
Yeah, who was his nemesis in like the first 3 seasons of the show, because she was just a nasty, nasty lawyer. But later on, they ended up working together on some other things. So I'm excited about this. Titus Welliver is an amazing actor. This show is one of the best shows, especially police shows, that I've ever seen. I really enjoyed it. 5 or 6 seasons of whatever it was. I can't wait to dive into this. I'm glad that you told me about this, because I know what I'm watching this weekend.
Oh yeah, and I think it's actually pretty interesting. Where they're going with Bosch. Now he's out there. He's not a cop anymore, but he's still using those skills, and he's still using those connections. And he has now taken on a case that he's starting to realize is a lot deeper and more dangerous than it appeared on the surface.
So what do you think, -1 to 4 waffles, with just 1 episode under your belt there?
At 1 episode right now, I'm at 3 waffles. I'm thinking this is pretty good.
Well, see, now you got to go back and watch 5, 6 seasons of Bosch itself. All right. What else we got? Pentaveret. Mike Myers is at it again. The man of many faces, voices, and ideas.
Well, I don't know about ideas anymore. Hey, I'm a Mike Myers guy. I loved Austin Powers. I loved him on Saturday Night Live. I loved Wayne's World. This one is starting to strain a little bit. So the idea behind the Pentaveret, this is the new Netflix series that he has. He plays a Canadian journalist, kind of the lovable old guy who does the guy on the street things and goes to the festivals. Everybody thinks he's just adorable. But he needs to get a big story to keep his job. And he starts chasing after a story that's been told by conspiracy people for years. The story of the Pentaveret, a group of 5 people who have been secretly ruling the world from behind the scenes. And it turns out they're real. And they're inducting a new member played by Michael Keegan Key. Or Keegan-Michael Key, pardon me.
Yeah.
Keegan-Michael Key.
I saw the trailer for this, and I was like, well, it looks funny, but, I mean, how does it play out? How does it play out? Is it just painful?
It's kind of painful. I mean, it's Mike Myers playing every character he can think of, and sometimes he hits, and sometimes they're not very interesting. And he's throwing a ton of jokes out there, and some of them hit, and a lot of them are just crud. And there's a lot of potty humor in here that really just doesn't seem to fit. It really just feels like a throwback. And I think that's the biggest thing that I can say about the Pentaverate. It feels like a throwback to comedy that was much more popular 20 to 25 years ago. I don't know if Mike Myers has kept up with what people want today.
That's too bad. I will tell you, my favorite Mike Myers movie out of all of them is called So I Married an Axe Murderer.
Yes.
That is probably one of the most hysterical movies. I'll watch that occasionally now and then just because it's so good. It was before he got huge, and it's just a great movie. So, all right, the Pentaverate -1 to 4 waffles.
We're sitting at 1 waffle right now.
Ow, 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 ow. Okay. Big movie in the theaters. You said you had a whole bunch of people in there with you. Doctor Strange, The Multiverse of Madness, 2.5 minutes. Go.
All right, so I'm going to start off by saying, if you go see it in 3D, one of the trailers is for the new Avatar movie coming out in December, and there was literally no reaction by people. It's going to tank. Okay, let's talk about Doctor Strange.
Okay.
Doctor Strange. So we find out that he is messing around with the multiverse again, and a young girl has emerged who has the power to jump from one universe to the other, which is kind of a big deal. And somebody has found out and wants to use that to control her. And I'm just going to tell you right now, it's Wanda. Wanda wants to use that power to go to a universe where she can have her children, and Doctor Strange has to stop her because she's gone insane.
Oh, man. Okay. And I know that his old sidekick has come back, the one that walked away from him in the last Doctor Strange movie and said, I'm going to stop you. Mordo or whatever his name was. Anyway, I mean, it looked great for the trailers that I've seen, and I loved Doctor Strange. I thought it was a great movie, great concept. I've always loved that character. How did it work for you?
I think Benedict Cumberbatch is awesome. I mean, he is very funny. He is a great leading man. There are moments where let him really show what an actor he is, getting really deep into what's happening on the screen. So that's always fun to watch. The special effects are really cool, but it just feels like a movie where we're just running from one fight scene to the next fight scene and one action scene to the next action scene. And I feel like Marvel is running out of steam. I feel like, they're now putting out movies because we just got to keep the franchise going. I don't know what the whole point of it is anymore. I don't know what the direction of it is anymore, other than, hey, go watch Doctor Strange so we can make $800 million.
Well, that's too bad. I mean, because Doctor Strange really came in at the very tail end of the last phase, and so maybe they can stretch it in, and maybe we just need to see more. I don't know. I am looking forward to seeing it. I'll probably wait till it hits the streams. -1 to 4 waffle. Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. What say you?
2.5 waffles, but I really do like some of the big surprises that we got throughout the movie.
Okay. All right. Willie Waffle. WaffleMovie.com. My friend, thank you so much. Don't let anybody charge you on stage and drag you down.
No, absolutely not. I mean, unless Chris Rock is there to defend me.
Exactly. Was that Will Smith? All right. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate it. Folks, we're out of time. Monday, I'm going to have a weekend, and you are too. You're going to enjoy it, and we will see you back here bright and early. Have a great one.
Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay, quick confession here, Willie. I actually, this last weekend, I got a chance to watch, was it this last week? Anyway, The Batman.
Ah, The Batman.
Let me tell you, here's what was interesting. I watched The Batman, and I was like, dang, that was surprisingly good. I mean, that was good. And then, because a couple of my kids hadn't seen the Batman Begins, the beginning of the Chris Nolan trilogy, which was up until that point my favorite Batman movie, I went and watched that. And I thought, I mean, just watching them side by side, it was so interesting. You know, the biggest thing about the Batman is that really, it's not a superhero movie. It's a mystery. It's a mystery. It's like a detective mystery. And I found that to be fascinating. Yeah.
And I think that it really gets better in the second half. Like, I felt like the first half, they're laying down some stuff, they're establishing some stuff, they're giving you some hints about the mystery that's at play. But I thought, like, once they got to the halfway point, that last half of the Batman was pretty good. That justifies making another one.
Yeah, no, I really do. I like the realness of it. I mean, you know, let's face it, when you watched Two-Face and Riddler and some of these others, you know, Jim Carrey and all, it was
the more cartoony.
It was cartoonish, you know, and it wasn't. I mean, that was the cool thing about Batman Begins and the Nolan trilogy, is that it was more gritty and more real. But this one was like, it almost split the difference between, say, Batman Begins and the Joaquin Phoenix Joker. You know what I mean? It's like real life kind of thing. And I really, and the thing is, one of those movies where I said, "Oh, I like it," and then the next day I was like, "Man, I really like that." I was still
like thinking it more than I realized.
Yeah, I mean, I keep thinking about it, and it was so good. It's so good. Coming back to it. So anyway, my recommendation. I mean, to me, that was a 3.5 waffle movie. It was really
nice.
Good.
Well, and you're going to get another one, and you're going to get the Penguin series on HBO Max.
I cannot believe that was Colin Farrell. I mean,
I know.
My mind was just, how are they? You know, because sometimes like Mike Myers in a fat suit looks. You could
like
tell,
Mike Myers.
Right? This I could not even. If you had told me that was Colin Farrell, I would have said no. But it was amazing.
It was fantastic. Colin Farrell just keeps proving he's more than just a pretty boy. This guy's a real actor. You know, not only does he not look like him, he doesn't sound like him, he doesn't act like him. You have no idea that Colin Farrell's there.
Yeah.
You just don't.
No, it's a great movie. My second thing, I've been binging it. My father recommended it. I'd heard good about it, and I've been watching David Boreanaz in SEAL Team. Which also a very good. If you're a fan of military stuff and things like that, it does. You know, sometimes it does draw a little bit away from reality, but overall, really good show. I've been enjoying that. I'm almost done with all 5 seasons, and been watching it for the last 2 or 3 months. But really a good show. So that's definitely another 3. I think a 3 waffler for me. So
cool.
Anyway, what are we hitting next week, real quick?
Well, next week, Firestarter on Peacock. And I'm going to throw out to you, I really thought this true story is amazing. The Staircase on HBO Max. It is a true story. This is this is basically a reenactment with Toni Collette. A woman appears to be murdered by her husband in their home, and he fights for his innocence. And you would think that this guy is guilty as guilty gets until some of the evidence comes out.
Okay. All right. Well, you do love yourself some real true crime stuff, so we'll let you fly on that one. All right, my friend. Well, as always, it is a pleasure to deal with you and talk with you, and we'll see you next week. Tell me you'll watch the first episode of season 1 of Bosch. Just tell me that.
Okay, I'll do that.
1 episode. That's all I ask.
1 episode. I think I can handle that.
Yeah, just watch 1 episode and then report back to us next week, okay?
All right, you got it.
You're my friend. Thank you so much. I hope you have a fantastic weekend. As always, I love talking to you. We'll see you next weekend.
See you then.
Folks, out of time. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio.
We've shed our terrestrial radio skin, and now we are slimy lizard internet people. It's the Michael Dukes Show.